Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Just last night, I did a live mastiff draft. This is a $2,500 entry fee. Best ball draft on Underdog Fantasy Football. I'm going to go through round by round. I'm going to break down how my draft went, how I feel about each pick, and there's some interesting picks in here. And obviously, you can see this team over here kind of had some issues with the way things went, and it made for a really interesting draft. So appreciate you guys being here. Let's go.
He's a legend.
So as I said, I did this $2,500 entry fee draft. It is called the Mastiff. It is available on Underdog Fantasy. It's right there in the lobby. It's a 72-man tournament. So there's like 6 leagues or whatever, however that are going to get drafted in this. And much different payout structure, much different way through the league. So the Mastiff is a tournament, but it's different from like the Best Ball Mania or the Puppies, where you only advance like 2 people out of the 12. As Josh Norris said it last night on the Shoutcast. They did a whole video. If you want to see the entire draft as it unfolded, go to Underdog Fantasy's YouTube page. It was the draft last night on September the 1st. It was done live. Him and Hayden both shoutcasted it, and you can see their thoughts on how everything broke down. But here's my thoughts from my perspective on this draft. Instead of 2 teams making it through, 4 teams make it through. It is a much smaller playoff field. You're not, it's a 4-man final in week 17, as opposed to like a 7,000 person final. Don't fact check that number, but it's close in the Best Ball Mania, or a little bit smaller, tighter field in the Puppy. So like week 17 correlation, not as much in play. Having to shoot for one of those top 2 spots in the league, not as much in play. So you're drafting a little bit more for floor in a draft like this than you would be drafting in those high-end tournaments. Or sorry, not high-end tournaments, but like large field tournaments where you have to beat everybody to get into the dance, and then it becomes like a daily fantasy thing. You just need players active, and you need high volume players active at that point here. So everything kind of started off pretty standard in the first round. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase. My 6th overall player is Austin Eckler. If I was left with a choice between Jamar Chase, Eckler, and Cook here at 6, it would have been a tough choice. Love Jamar Chase, but as I said, I need to prioritize locking up some running backs. And if you watched my perfect draft video, I want to get 2 running backs in the first 4 rounds. I want to lock up 2 solid running backs in the first 4 rounds, because that's just what I think is optimal this season. Now, that's in a BBM or a Puppy. Even more so in a draft like this, where 4 people make it through. So getting those high volume, pass game, inside the 5 box type running backs was a higher priority for me in this Mastiff draft than in other drafts. So first round went pretty much according to plan. A lot of teams, 1, 2, myself included, 3, 4 teams drafted 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. 1 team went 0 RB through the first 4 rounds. That was team 4 here. And I have the names on the top of the screen are deleted for their protection. It's like an episode of Dragnet, right? Where names have been changed to protect the innocent. So as you can see, I started off Eckler and Fournette. I'm high on both of these guys. Fournette, a couple of picks ahead of ADP. His ADP is like 23 right now on Underdog. I personally like him better than Javonte Williams. However, Javonte Williams could be the #1 running back overall. There is a lot of possibilities where his season ends as the #1 RB on the board. However, for him to get to that point, Melvin Gordon III needs to not be a thing. Currently, Melvin Gordon III is a thing. He was a thing last year. They had as close to a 50-50 split or a 55-45 split last year. And I don't know if that's going to change. Even with the new regime, well, there's a new coaching staff. Yeah, the new coaching staff came from Green Bay, where they have always employed close to a 50-50 split. There was never a bell cow in Green Bay. It was always Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. Last year, it was Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They just, if they have multiple active running backs, they're not going with that. So if Javonte Williams gets 55% of the touches, not very many paths, as good as I believe he is as a talent, to getting that RB1 spot or being a top 5 running back on the season, as long as Melvin Gordon's there. But I think that Leonard Fournette does have paths to being a top 5 running back by the end of the season, although I don't think he has as many paths to a top 1. So right there is kind of an indication, at least for me, that this should be a floor draft. right? We should be looking for floor in this high stakes draft, because you always have to draft for the rules of the tournament that you're playing and deal with it. Coming to the third round, if you watched my do not draft video, here's 5 players that I think you must draft. These are league winner type players. And here's 5 players that you shouldn't draft. The cover boy for that video was Deebo Samuel with a big arrow that said, no way, at ADP. If Deebo Samuel's ADP is in this range, he's going 15, 16, 17. I can't buy Deebo Samuel. There's too much touchdown, lack of stickiness, let's say. There's a lot of possible touchdown regression for him, specifically with his rushing touchdowns from 2021 not repeating in 2022 for a couple of reasons. One, he scored a bunch of touchdowns from outside 20 yards. That's more luck-based than touchdowns that originate from inside the 5-yard line, right? Rush attempts that originate from inside the 5-yard line. Those are way more sticky. So players that project to get the same amount of inside the 5 touches as they got the previous year have a very realistic possibility of scoring about the same amount of touchdowns the next year. Also, so Trey Lance is going to take some of those away instead of Jimmy G, who does not run inside the 5. So he didn't get a lot of inside the 5 carries last year, and now there's one more player to the mix to that. Also, I don't think this team's going to throw it over 450 times. So if I'm drafting players in the first round, it's going to be wide receivers specifically. It's going to be guys like CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown. Mike Evans is somebody I've been drafting a lot in the second round, as they project for like 130 to 160 targets in 2022, where Deebo Samuel to me projects from about 105 to 130. He's going to fall in that range, and targets are way more valuable than rush attempts. However, at 16, I ain't buying. At 30, yeah. If you're telling me T. Higgins, Mike Williams, and I'm getting Deebo in that range, DJ Moore has not been a guy who has scored a lot of touchdowns in his career, partially because of the offense, partially because utilization, partially because of the quarterback efficiency that he plays with. I'm really okay with this group of wide receivers that went between 29 and 35 grabbing Deebo Samuel. So as you can see, I don't hate the players. We are playing a game, and I don't like Deebo Samuel at this cost, but once he falls basically a full round, then I would take him. Somebody in chat just asked, what if T. Higgins was there? So like, that was my decision. I had both of them queued up at this point. The player I really wanted here in the third round was Kyle Pitts. He did not fall to me. Team 4 took him there. I do want to get an elite tight end, but I'm prioritizing as a top 3 elite tight end, which is leaving me with, in my latest drafts, a lot of Kyle Pitts in the third round. His ADP has flown. His ADP was around here, 33 to 35. It's now up to like 28. So he didn't fall to me. That would have been my optimal. T. Higgins versus Deebo Samuel at 30. I probably would have gone Deebo Samuel, but Kyle Pitts was my optimal pick there. I did not think Mike Evans was going to make it back. But if Mike Evans was there, then he would have been the guy. Coming all the way back around, you see that Team 12 pinged 2 running backs again. James Conner, Travis Etienne. Now, and obviously you can see on screen that he kept pinging running backs. Now, here was the thing. That wasn't his plan. This wasn't somebody who tried to tank a league. There's a question of whether or not this person knew that he entered a fast draft or if he was entering a slow draft. Maybe he just entered a draft and thought he would wait for a while and then make his picks as it came around to him. He was on auto draft after the first round. So like, he timed out pick 1, he timed out pick 2, and then he was just on auto draft, and running backs just happened to be the highest in the queue for him all the way through like round 8. Now, unfortunate user experience for Team 12, but like, the problem is this really affects how the rest of the team's drafted, because if you're a running back and chill, if you're a bell cow and chill guy like Team 10 here, who took Derrick Henry and then a bunch of wide receivers and a quarterback, my preferred drafting style, by the way, or if you're Team 5, who drafted 4 running backs, a tight end, and they did not take a running back until round 6 as it was coming back to them, a lot of these running backs that would be available from this range and down were not there. So it really affects, as you're going to see, the second half of this draft. Allen Robinson, I think, is a fantastic value at 43. Absolutely fantastic value at 43. Obviously, in this specific tournament, the Mastiff, I don't need as much week 17 correlation. I don't need to game stack week 17, but the Chargers do play the Rams in week 17. And if they both happen to be healthy, Eckler and Allen Robinson for that game, I do have some week 17 correlation in this spot. Coming back around, I picked up Deontay Johnson. I know that he sustained a small shoulder injury. They say that he should be fine, from what I understand. I got the last 3 picks, Deebo Samuel, Allen Robinson, and Deontay Johnson, all at values versus ADP. So shout out to Peter Overzet. I was the value hound in rounds 3 through 5, nabbing 3 really high volume wide receivers in terms of touches. Obviously, Deebo Samuel not as high a target getter as some of these other guys, but he should get a lot of touches and does have double-digit touchdown equity. Allen Robinson, thank God he's finally got a real quarterback after all these years, stepping into a really high volume, really high value spot with the Rams. And Deontay Johnson is going to be the one wide receiver of Pittsburgh who's on the field all the time. A lot of preseason value buzz has gone to Chase Claypool, as he's been going between picks 100 and 115, and the rookie Pickens, because he's such a good run blocker. He really is, but like, I don't care about his run blocking, right? Like, I want to see him like pile stats up and pile targets up. Claypool and Pickens are essentially splitting snaps. We have a promo running for the next 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks left on this one. RotoWire is offering, for all of the members of the Smizz Gang, 2 free days of all access to their fantasy football site. You can get daily fantasy advice. You can get sports betting advice. If you play daily fantasy baseball or golf, you can utilize those 2 days, all access to everything that they have. Go to smizzle.tv/RotoWire. There will be a pinned comment down below. If you scroll down to the comments, the one right on top from me is going to have that link in it. I will try to make it as easy as possible. It requires not even a credit card. You get 2 free days of access to the site to kind of give it a test drive. If you have your draft this week, and I know that all of you probably have your friends and family football drafts this week, go print out their all their stuff that they have here. They got draft software. You can customize it and optimize it for your league, auction values, sleepers, ADP reports, everything. So go check out everything that they have over at RotoWire and support the people who support the channel. Claypool and Pickens are essentially splitting snaps when there are 2 wide receivers on the field for Pittsburgh, and in 3 wide receiver sets, all 3 are on the field. The one constant in all of those situations is Deontay Johnson, who has been on the field through 100% of those snaps with the first team through preseason. My next pick, now this was a bit of an ADP reach, but I'm watching the draft. You have to be able and willing to pivot. 1, for the game that you're playing, and 2, to the draft room you are operating in. So I don't want to draft another running back here. I believe that in a normal draft, there's going to be running backs in this range, right? Between pick 80 and pick 140 is where I'm probably going to ping my running back 3 and 4. However, noticing that team 12 had gone running back, running back, running back, running back, running back, running back through the first 6 rounds, I immediately identified that there was going to be a running back shortage as we got into these middle rounds, rounds 6 through 14. They were going to start to dry up, and they were going to dry up fast, as a lot of these bell cow and chill, a lot of these 0 running back teams, a lot of these light running back teams, we're going to have to take players. Now, the auction philosophy comes into play here, right? You're either going to pay up for the players that you want in an auction fantasy draft, or you're going to end up paying for the players that you don't. So I decided I'm going to pay up for a player that I like. And among the running backs left in this spot, J.K. Dobbins, I love J.K. Dobbins. He says he's going to play week 1. I'm a little fearful at this point that like maybe they throttle him down. I never was expecting from a healthy J.K. Dobbins more than 14 to 18 touches per game. That's where the RB1 on the Ravens typically falls. But they're high value touches, and he's a high value running back from his metrics and what he is able to do. And it would not shock me if J.K. Dobbins if he was to play 17 games, led the league in touchdowns. That's something that Ravens running backs have done in the past as well, even with the presence of Lamar Jackson. We saw it with Mark Ingram in 2019. So Dameon Pierce, to me, in this group of running backs between Dobbins, Mitchell, CEH, David Montgomery, Chase Edmonds, and Tony Pollard, this singular group in this spot, is my favorite running back of this group. I like the upside of Tony Pollard as a standalone play. If Ezekiel Elliott does sustain an injury, Tony Pollard could become a league winner, but he requires an injury to Ezekiel Elliott for him to become the full-time guy and be that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I like the situation, I like the spot, but there are also 3 other running backs on that team, and I'm not really expecting Edwards-Helaire to get any more than 50 or 55% of the touches. David Montgomery, who knows if they like him for the scheme that they're running. I actually prefer Herbert at his draft price. Sometimes it comes down to that ADP gap that you need to think about. Dameon Pierce looks like the only show in town, and he's clearly the best show in town as well, as he finished the preseason with the highest running back grade that PFF has seen from a running back since like 2006. So a fantastic season for him. I was in Houston and at a game that they played the Saints, and it was eye-popping. So like, he passes the eyeball test. He was clearly the best running back on the field for the Texans. He caused them through his preseason work to cut Marlon Mack. They've signed him to the practice squad in case somebody suffers an injury, as running backs do get injured a lot. But Dameon Pierce does have a chance to be the 2022 version of James Robinson from his rookie season 2 years ago, where he amassed 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns on a horrifically bad team, the worst team in the NFL. So like, well, I don't know if Dameon Pierce is going to get the ball. They're going to be losing a lot. Yeah, that's entirely possible, but they're going to feed him touches. And if they're in bad script situations, he is also a very talented pass catcher. So if you're telling me that he's got a target floor of 4 targets per game, that just makes me like him even more. So he's been going in this 75 to 85 range this week on Underdog. I took him a round ahead to make sure that I got him. Coming back, I went with Trey Lance. I would have drafted Trey Lance if I didn't have Deebo Samuel. Having correlation is nice, but it's not necessary with a quarterback like Trey Lance or Jalen Hurts, specifically in a tournament like this. Trey Lance can have an MVP season and not really pull along a wide receiver, a pass catcher with him. We saw that last year with Jalen Hurts. Like, if Trey Lance is a 22 version of the 21 Jalen Hurts, if he posts a season like that where his passing numbers aren't all that fantastic, but he was the QB1 through the first 8 weeks of the season based on his rushing floor, he's not going to carry a wide receiver along with him. Obviously, I would like if he did because I have Deebo on this team, but it is what it is. Coming back in round 8, I wanted Kadarius Toney in this spot. I wanted Tom Brady in this spot. I had both of these guys queued up, and both went 1 pick before I was going to take them. So sad me, this is not the pick that I wanted. And I don't regret the pick. I like Sky Moore. I was debating whether or not to take Chris Olave when left in this spot. I was also debating whether to take Miles Sanders in this spot, but not having a lot of wide receivers, I only had 3 of them at this point. I opted to take a wide receiver. I don't like the Tennessee offense right now. I do like Robert Woods, but losing a tackle off of that team makes things even worse. They just lost their starting left tackle to an ACL injury for the entire season. So to me, in that 30 seconds that I have to make this decision in a $2,500 league, I went with the fact that I like a pass catcher in a Mahomes offense more than I like a rookie pass catcher in a Mahomes offense, more than I like a rookie pass catcher in a Jameis Winston led offense. Now that could come back to bite me. I think Olave is the better player. He is clearly the higher profile and higher pedigreed prospect. Maybe I should have gone with Olave here. The floor play is Robert Woods, but I want some upside in this range, specifically rounds like 8 through 12. I want some upside baked into these picks in this spot when I'm drafting wide receivers or running backs. Look, the offense for the Titans could be really good, right? If Derrick Henry comes back from a foot injury and Tannehill returns to his efficiency from the last couple of seasons, but like, it's going to be tough with Robert Woods also coming back from a knee injury. This offense could actually tank. Like, it could be fine or it could tank, and there's probably not going to be very much middle ground on it. So I went with one of these 2 rookies, and I chose Sky Moore because of the fact that he is attached to Patrick Mahomes in this spot. Would have preferred Kadarius Toney, would have preferred Tom Brady, didn't get there. That had me come back in this spot and take Matthew Stafford, right? I needed to get wide receivers. I felt that I could ping a couple in here. Judging from what happened with the rest of my running backs, going with Miles Sanders probably would have been the play, right? In retrospect, I went with Sky Moore, came back with Stafford. I do have slight correlation with Allen Robinson. I am high on the Rams again this year. That is going to be a high octane, high powered, high scoring offense, and I want parts of it. That gives me 2 really high floor, top 12 quarterbacks, in my opinion. And for a team like this, going double elite quarterback should assure me 20 to 30 points for my quarterback every single week. And that's what I think I wanted to go for in this draft. That's why I wanted to ping Tom Brady around before. I gambled a little bit at pick 115 on Romeo Doubs. Hopefully big dubs in the chat. Looking at the players that went in this round, Tyler Boyd, I did not have access to him, did not have access to Claypool. Rondale Moore, I probably would not have taken 2 Pittsburgh pass catchers, knowing that I had Deontay Johnson earlier. That left me with Garrett Wilson, who is currently not on the field, Joshua Palmer, who is currently the wide receiver 3 in a very potent offense, but probably the 4th on the team when it comes to projectable target market share. I think he's going to fall behind Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler when it comes to target market share. So he is the 4th option in the passing game on the Chargers, or the player who could potentially be the number 1 option in the passing game for an Aaron Rodgers led offense. So even if Dobbs is the number 2, number 3, or number 4, I still have massive upside from a multiple time MVP winning quarterback who still does have the ability to throw for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns in a season, from a player who does project to be on the field an awful lot for that Packers team. I'm fine if I'm higher on Dobbs than most people. I also felt that based on the injury that Russell Gage is dealing with in camp, that I was going to get one of him or Julio Jones in the next round. Never high on Mecole Hardman. I would have been fine with Michael Gallup or Jahan Dotson in this spot. This actually came down. I was more interested in Jahan Dotson, but again, this is a bet on Aaron Rodgers versus Carson Wentz, and I'm going to bet on Aaron Rodgers in that situation. Much like I'm going to bet on Patrick Mahomes versus Jameis Winston. Both have similar projectable volume. One has higher touchdown upside based on the quarterback that is going to be generating those touchdowns. Round 11, we're going this way now, left to right. Julio Jones, Russell Gage. I'm going to buy Russell Gage in that spot. He fell around on ADP, so I'll happily take that value here. Isaiah McKenzie also dealing with an injury. Nico Collins, I was hoping that he was going to get to me here at 139. He went 2 picks before. I also wanted Irv Smith in this spot. Did not get him. I had considered Michael Carter. He was the main guy that I wanted here at 139. So Carter was number 1 in the queue, then Irv Smith, then Nico Collins. But Jacoby Myers, not a bad consolation prize. He's going to be on the field a ton. Growth from Mac Jones in year 2, and should lead the Patriots in terms of targets, and hopefully they open up the offense a little bit more with a year 2 quarterback versus year 1. Now look at the run on running backs that all went well ahead of ADP. My number 1 player in the queue for this round was brother Raheem. Then it was Khalil Herbert. I got neither. I would have been fine with Robinson. Not really interested in Pacheco in this range. Robinson's going to be on the field 40 to 55% of the time. Might be the RB1 for Jacksonville, being drafted 100 spots behind the player that people want to be the RB1, but does not currently look like it. Mostert, love the fact that he's healthy. Obviously, there's injury risk based on his injury history. Would have been happy with Jamal Williams, would have been happy with Khalil Herbert. I'm forced now, based on all the running backs that went in this pod, because of all the running backs that went to Team 12, to take a player that I have a lot of in Zamir White, but my ADP on Zamir White is down here in the last couple of rounds. I have no tight end at this point. Now, my ideal is to have one of the elite tight ends, top 5, but I was not going to take George Kittle in the 5th round, knowing that I had Deebo Samuel, and based on what I've said, I'm clear that they're not going to be a high volume pass game offense, so I don't want multiple guys from a low volume pass game offense. So if I don't get one of those elite tight ends, I'm going to ping 3 other guys, right? I'm going to ping 3 other guys later. Chat says, you're surprised I didn't take Michael Carter here. I thought about it. His ADP right now is like 145. I thought that he would make it back to me here. He didn't. And then none of these guys did as well. ADP of like 165, ADP of 165, ADP of 165, ADP of 154, ADP of 150. All of them went before pick 150. So things went off the rails late because of everything that went off the rails in Team 12 early. But we move and we make our decisions. Now, here were the 3 tight ends that I had to ping, because I have to cobble together tight end 1 weeks, which means I essentially, in best ball with a no transaction league, I have to piece together and cobble together a tight end 1 based on streaming. I want 3 tight ends now in rounds 14, 15, and 16 that I project to be on the field and should give me a tight end 1 streaming option. Gerald Everett, Chargers, high volume offense, a lot of touchdowns expected there. I've spoken numerous times about how much I like Evan Ingram this season versus the last 2, based on what we've seen from his deployment in the preseason and what we can project his deployment to be during the season, added to the growth of a second-year Trevor Lawrence with a much more stable coaching staff and better NFL-type offense. And I was happy with either Hayden Hurst or Brevin Jordan here. These are my 3 tight ends that I'm going to go with on this team to hopefully give me a top 12 tight end score for the first 14 weeks of the season, all 14 weeks. Now, am I going to get there? Probably not. I would much rather have somebody like Kyle Pitts in that spot, but this is not a bad secondary spot to get, and I will get top 12 weeks more often than I won't get top 12 weeks, which hopefully is enough to fuel me to be one of the top 4 teams in this league. But especially in a high advance team league like this, Josh Norris said 4 teams will graduate. I liked that. He is fantastic, by the way. Shout out to Josh. I'm hoping that this gets me there. If Ingram has the bounce back year that I believe he can have, if Everett steps into essentially what Cook did last year for the Chargers, and Brevin Jordan takes steps forward in this Texans offense this season in terms of snaps and on field, and maybe gets you like 5-6 targets a game, he'll be more than fine being drafted in the 16th round. I pinged a couple of running backs late because I felt 6 running backs was what I needed over 5 running backs and three quarterbacks. I wanted to get 3 QBs from this league. I didn't end up getting that because of the running back debacle here in rounds 10 through 15, which led me to go get Boston Scott, who will see the field, maybe 30-40% of the snaps. And in case of an injury to Miles Sanders, he misses a week or 2, Boston Scott steps into a much higher volume role. And Mike Davis, who in the case of an injury to Dobbins, again, will already be on the field in that 40% role. And if Dobbins sits out any weeks, whether early, middle, or late in the season, will step into a higher volume role for the Ravens. Thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.